When most people think of World War I, they imagine mud, gas masks, and endless trenches. But, few realize that one of the greatest struggles of the war wasn't fought with bullets. It was fought with hunger. Supply lines failed, food spoiled in transport, and soldiers were trapped for weeks in freezing muck with nothing fresh to eat. Yet somehow they kept going. They didn't have high-tech MREs or freeze-dried rations. What they had was a simple, almost primitive kind of food, so basic that it barely seemed like a meal at all. But that simplicity was what made it a lifesaver. It required no refrigeration, almost no preparation, and it could sustain a man through days of combat. This wasn't just food. It was survival science, born from desperation. Soldiers didn't need gourmet meals. They needed endurance. The brutal reality of trench warfare meant that soldiers rarely got hot food. Rations had to be compact, non-perishable, and easy to transport through a war zone. Anything too complex simply didn't survive the journey from depot to front line. That's where the simplest foods, hardtack, pea sausage and tinned meat, became heroes. Hardtack was the foundation of the soldier's diet. A hard, dry biscuit made from nothing more than flour, water and salt, it became the universal ration for both sides. It was so tough that troops often had to soak it in tea, soup, or even rainwater just to chew it. But its strength was its secret weapon. It was virtually indestructible. Properly stored, hardtack could last for decades, immune to rot, insects and moisture. In the chaos of trench life, where everything was soaked and filthy, that kind of reliability mattered more than taste. What made hardtack so effective was its lack of water. Without moisture, bacteria couldn't grow, mold couldn't form, and soldiers always had a stable source of carbohydrates. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave them the energy to dig trenches, haul ammunition, and march for hours in cold rain. The same principle still applies today in any survival situation. Foods with low moisture and high density last longest. You can make hardtack yourself by mixing flour, salt, and just enough water to form a stiff dough. Roll it thin, bake it low and slow until bone dry, and let it cool. Store it in an airtight container, and you'll have food that can outlast nearly anything on a grocery shelf. If hardtack was the backbone of survival, the Germans had their own secret weapon, pea sausage, known as Erbswurst. While the British and French clung to their tins and biscuits, the Germans turned to this ingenious invention that looked like a simple roll of paper-wrapped dough. Inside was a concentrated mix of dried pea flour, salt and pork fat. Soldiers would slice off a chunk, dissolve it in boiling water, and in minutes they had a thick, hearty pea soup that was both filling and rich in protein. The brilliance of Erbswurst lay in its chemistry. The dried peas offered complex carbohydrates and plant-based protein, while the pork fat delivered vital calories and acted as a natural preservative by sealing out air. The result was a compact, high-energy meal that didn't spoil even in the dampest trenches. It was efficient, cheap, and easy to produce in massive quantities. Germany manufactured tons of it throughout the war. And the principle behind it is timeless. You can make your own version by grinding dried split peas into flour, mixing it with rendered fat, animal or vegetable salt, and a bit of dried herbs or bouillon. Form it into small bars or sausages, wrap tightly, and store in a cool place. When boiled, it becomes a nourishing soup, simple, shelf-stable, and shockingly effective. No refrigeration, no additives, just practical, enduring nutrition. Simplicity was the true innovation of World War I rations. Soldiers didn't survive because their meals were varied. They survived because their food didn't fail. The secret wasn't in complex recipes, but in understanding the science of preservation. Every army ration from that era followed the same rules: remove water, add salt, and seal against air. That formula prevented bacteria, stabilized calories, and kept food safe for months or even years. One of the best examples was tinned bully beef, salted corned beef packed in fat. The fat acted as a natural oxygen barrier, preserving the meat without refrigeration. Soldiers could eat it cold or mix it with crushed hardtack to make a rough stew. It wasn't delicious, but it provided enough protein and calories to keep entire battalions moving. For modern preppers and outdoor enthusiasts, the lesson is the same. You don't need a pantry full of expensive freeze-dried packs. A stockpile of dried grains, salted meat or jerky, and preserved fats like tallow or lard can keep you alive indefinitely if stored properly. The key is mastering the balance of dryness, salt and fat, the same trio that fed millions through one of the harshest wars in history. What's truly inspiring is how soldiers learn to make the best of it. With only hardtack, bully beef and pea sausage, they came up with clever recipes to boost flavour and morale. Trench stew was a favourite. Crumbled hardtack mixed with tinned meat and a splash of condensed milk or tea cooked over a small burner. It wasn't elegant, but it was warm, filling and morale-boosting. That kind of creativity turned survival food into something sustainable. It's a lesson that still matters today. Adaptability is as vital as ingredients. Learning to stretch basic staples into multiple meals by soaking, boiling, or combining them differently turns simple food into real survival fuel. You can even test it yourself. Make a stew from hardtack, canned meat, and lentils outdoors. It's humbling to experience how little you actually need to stay strong. What made these World War I foods legendary wasn't just their endurance, but their universality. Whether German, British or French, every soldier relied on the same preservation truths: dryness, salt and fat. That combination sustained millions through years of deprivation. In a world where modern food systems are fragile and perishable, those lessons are more relevant than ever. Food security begins with simplicity. Knowing how to make meals that last, nourish, and don't depend on convenience is real preparedness. The soldiers of World War I proved that survival isn't about luxury. It's about understanding what the body truly needs and how nature itself can preserve it. If this deep dive into World War I survival food gave you something to think about, make sure to subscribe to In the Beginning for more history-grounded survival wisdom. Share it with a friend who loves history or prepping, because the best lessons aren't written in textbooks. They're remembered through the endurance of those who learned them the hard way.